Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It is Thursday, June 6th, 5:57 a.m. East Coast time, and I'm going to take a first look at these salaries for Game 4 of the NBA Finals. Thank you, everybody in advance who turned out to all the streams yesterday. It was an incredible time, whether it was on YouTube or Sportscaster. We almost had 300 people live on YouTube. Thank you for all the support. I greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate all the nice comments. A couple people split for first yesterday that I saw, which was like a decent prize pool, right? Around $6,000 to $7,000. About 97 people splitting for first. So nice job, everybody there. We'll briefly talk about last night, but the main thing is to talk about these salaries. We have the game tomorrow. The game is tomorrow night, right? So instead of having just the first look today, and then the next day I do the projections that come out online on my breakdown video for my picks. I'm going to later in the day today, and I'm already starting to work on it with the popcorn machine, seeing minutes and all that. Minutes are already looking wacky, and work on my projections. Later in the day today, I'll probably film the breakdown video, and that will be out for tomorrow night's game. And then we will be going live once again tomorrow night from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. on YouTube. Maybe a little bit earlier than that, 5:15, we'll see. And then once again, we'll be going over to Sportscaster from 6:30 to 7:15 for a 45 minutes of overtime, right? And I'll appreciate it if you guys want to tune in for any of that. I know it's Friday night, people have plans, but if you're not, come hang out there. It's a little bit earlier, around dinner time. So yeah, if you are, awesome. So let's break it down, and if this is your first time to the channel, because a lot of people are discovering the channel right now, it's a very exciting time. We're about to reach 5,000 subscribers. Probably if I had to project it based on the way that these NBA numbers are going by next week, and that's this time next week, 7 days, and that's absolutely incredible. 2 more NBA games should get us there. I'm happy that this is probably going to go 7 series because we're going to get to meet more people. This is a fun time. You guys see how happy I am in these live streams, and also right here. I just love being interactive, but also love doing these videos. So thank you for all the people that are subscribing, and if you're new to the channel, my name is Sal. I cover daily fantasy sports in all the major sports outside of hockey, but I'm a Bruins fan. I've said this a couple times now, so I'm a broken record. But yeah, I love covering daily fantasy sports. I love making these videos, interacting. So if you could hit me with a like button at any point, we almost had 200, or we did have 200 in the last video. That's pretty cool. I think that was the first 200 one. And if any point during the video, what really helps me out is if you subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and the reason why, it's at no expense to you. It doesn't cost you to subscribe, and what that does is it allows me to build a following, which lets advertisers say, hey Sal, we'll pay you this amount of money to say this, or we'll pay you this amount of money to promote our item, or come on Sportscaster like I'm doing right now. And that doesn't hurt you guys at all. It helps me. The free information then I get to give you instead of putting it behind a paywall. So it's a win-win for everybody as long as we can keep this going and advertisers are pulling out. And this is great because it's not even NFL season, which is going to be where I imagine a lot of attention comes from. So there's the whole spiel. Let's break down into it. We saw Steph go off last night, and let's quickly talk about last night. I have a bunch of alarms set for 6 a.m., but got up at 5:30 and just was awake. So last night, Steph, he went off. He had a career night. Yes, a career night, Steph Curry last night. Breaking down into it, I mean, 47 real points, 73 fantasy points, over 100. Somebody in the comments said Steph's going to have over 100 in the captain spot. And I said, meh, you need Clay to be fully out. And then even then, I don't know, because he'll be the only shooter, and it's pretty easy to key in on them. Nope, it wasn't easy. The guy went absolutely berserk. I faded Steph in all 3 of my lineups, did not have a single share. And there's a couple things to that. The one was he had a career night, so it makes me look even more dumb, right? If he goes for an average night, it's like, oh, okay, you almost got the fade. He had a career night, his best playoff night of all time. So that just did not work out great for me. But 90% of the time, I would have been wrong, right? 99 out of 10 times you need Steph Curry with no Klay Thompson and KD in the winning lineup. I'm banking last night on that one time coming true for me. And I just tried to get as much leverage as I could last night. I figured a ton of people were going to flock to Steph when the Klay news came out that were already the people that were already not on Steph were going to flock to him. And I just tried to stay steady. I knew that it was an even worse decision and that it could go really wrong, and it did for me. But again, it was just 3 lineups, and I don't care too much. I don't even watch the games once the half is over, because these games end at like midnight, and honestly, I get up at 5, so sleep is a thing. So I'm recapping them right now a little bit before joining. So yeah, Steph went absolutely berserk. I saw a couple of people won first. They split for first. Steph and the captain. It was a very chalky build, I believe. It was sort of a Steph and the captain with Kawhi, Lowry, who we were on really all week. And then I kind of got off of him a little bit in the live streams, but still thought he was solid in the utility, just not so much the captain. He got there, though, in terms of captain points. You just had a guy in Steph go berserk. So his almost 50 fantasy point day for Lowry just really didn't matter. And then you had Iggy, I believe, Serge Ibaka, who got to see increased minutes, which is something that we thought, and then Danny Green in the winning lineup. So pretty chalky build overall. Something that was probably came up for a lot of people once once Klay Thompson was ruled out. So that was last night. Let's check out the salaries for tonight. Steph Curry's 11-8. He pretty much flip-flops with Kawhi Leonard here. Kawhi's 11-6. This is all going to depend in all of this. I don't think KD plays once again. I think he's done for this series. This all depends on Klay Thompson, and the fact that they're only going to get one rest day in between is a little bit worrisome. It usually takes at least 5 days to come back from some sort of pull, and that's for a normal person. That's not a guy who's going to go out there and bust it for potentially up to 40 minutes in a basketball game in the highest intensity mode possible in the NBA Finals. That's 5 days for a normal person who now has to start like jogging back and rehabbing, right? So I'm sure he's 24/7 around the clock rehabbing this thing. I believe it would be exactly 5 days since he pulled it tomorrow or today, maybe even. So yeah, I think that he's probably going to play in this game, but we have to see what the updates are. I imagine he's somewhat limited, but look, the Warriors' defense was disgusting. It was really bad without Klay Thompson. Big reason why Klay was the primary defender on Lowry, and then he defended Kawhi the second most, and you saw Lowry absolutely go berserk when he did not have Klay Thompson on him, and then you saw Kawhi still continue to do his thing even after a slow first half. So yeah, I think that a lot of this is going to come down to Klay Thompson, of course. Right now, I still do like Kawhi Leonard more than Steph Curry. If you tell me that Klay Thompson is out, I think that it gets closer. Look, I know Steph just had a 73-point game compared to Kawhi's 54. Steph's not going to go out there and score, have a career high again, right? Even if Klay Thompson is out, although he should play really well. But you're not going to get, I don't think, these limited minutes out of some of the other guys in the Warriors, which were very suspicious in my opinion, and we'll get to them. Draymond came out and he finally had that game where he just didn't go absolutely berserk. First game in a while that I don't think he touched 40 fantasy points yet since May 10th. That's almost a month since he didn't have 40 fantasy points in these playoffs. Continues to see big minutes. It's nothing that I'm concerned about. The only thing that you saw kind of dropped here was really his assist numbers. Overall, the triple-double numbers weren't there. He only had 7 rebounds and 4 assists. And I think a big part of that is Boogie Cousins, but Boogie was only out there for 20 minutes, which is very weird. So I think that you're losing some of those assist numbers to guys who are coming off the bench a little bit more. Quinn Cook, Sean Livingston. I think it was just a weird game. Nothing to read into too much for Draymond. Siakam, 9,400. His price point stays the same. I still like that price point for Pascal Siakam. It's a price point that gets me on him. If he goes above like the $9,600 to $9,800 range, I'm slowly getting off of him. But at $9,400, he could easily pay that off. He started off hot yesterday. Ended up having a good game, just wasn't needed. Wasn't needed at 37 fantasy points for 9,400 when you get a guy in Lowry who goes absolutely berserk and some other guys like Iguodala continuing to play solid. Lowry's price point is now where it probably should be at $8,000. We'll talk about Klay. He's 86. Nothing right now that I can really say about him. Lowry at $8,000 is definitely interesting. It's going to this price point in daily fantasy sports where it's an even number. It's psychological. There's a book written by Jonathan Bales where he covers this in the book. If somebody's $7,900, they're going to flock to that guy. If somebody's $8,300, they're going to flock to that guy. The $8,300 player they think is much better than this flat $8,000. The $7,900 player they think is getting an incredible discount, right? The $7.99 effect, like if you go into a store and buy something. So Lowry at $8,000, he's coming off a huge game and there's limited players to choose from. So I don't think that psychological factor really comes in too much, but I think it's still going to be there for people, especially when the biggest drop off comes right after that. So you get DeMarcus Cousins, who's now $6,800. I thought if he played a decent game, and at $8,000, I do have interest in Lowry right now, especially he's probably going to be in my lineups, especially, and maybe even in the captain spot if Klay Thompson is out, who was his primary defender. Marcus Cousins at 6,800. I'm very shocked. I started looking at Popcorn Machine. Like I said, I didn't watch the full game last night. I was just checking kind of highlights, and I went to bed before it ended, to be completely honest. I was breaking down the Popcorn Machine, the game flows this morning a little bit. But to see DeMarcus Cousins only getting 20 minutes last night with no foul trouble, I really don't know what to make of that. I don't. I was trying to look at this, and Andrew Bogut just ended up getting bigger minutes. Andrew Bogut played 22 minutes to Andre Iguodala, or to Andrew Bogut played 20 minutes to 21 minutes to the 20 minutes that Cousins played, and then they also dusted off Jordan Bell for about 9 minutes. It's very confusing to me as to why this was the way that they ran. I imagine that at some point in this game, they kind of took the starters out, and they did in terms of the blowout run. So they took out Draymond, they took out Steph, they took out Quinn Cook. DeMarcus Cousins came out, and Andre Iguodala. So that's where you're going to get an extra 2 minutes at the end of the game. So I guess you can pipe up all the starters' minutes really for each side of the ball, because Jody Meeks, Jeremy Lin, Malcolm Miller get in. So for each side of the ball, you can pipe up all the starters' minutes outside of Marc Gasol and Siakam, because they finished out by 1.5 to 2 minutes. So it's good to see that right now, so I'm going to be adding that in. But if you tell me that even DeMarcus Cousins was going to play 22 minutes last night, that's very concerning. So looking back on the game flow right here, he ends up coming in. He plays a normal 6 minutes, so that's fine. I mean, if he averages that out, that's 26 minutes and 15 seconds. That's 25 minutes in the game, which is lower than we thought, but that's fine. He only gets 1 foul. When he comes out, I imagine Andrew Bogut must have been playing well when he came in. Bogut comes in and he makes a shot, he gets an assist, offensive rebound, defensive rebound, but he picks up 2 fouls early. You get Cousins checking back in. He makes a shot, he misses a shot, and he gets an assist, so nothing terrible there. Then Bogut quickly checks back in right there after a very short 5-minute spurt for DeMarcus Cousins. You get Bogut coming in, and he does nothing. He just stands on the court. So I imagine they want him out there for defensive purposes. 2 rebounds, and that's it. So yeah, it's just DeMarcus Cousins and Bogut checking in for each other. I don't see any Jordan Bell checking in for anybody as of right now. I'm trying to look at this. Yeah, there's no Jordan Bell checking in for any of these guys. He's checking in for short spurts, and I imagine that's going to come in the fourth quarter. So bear with me when we work through this. DeMarcus Cousins comes back in. He misses 3 shots, so maybe this is where they kind of take him out. He has a turnover. He misses 3 shots. He has a personal foul. All he really does during that 6-minute span is get an assist, a steal, and a rebound. So that's not great. He comes out. He only has a very short 6.5-minute burst there. And you get Andrew Bogut coming in, who I imagine then has to do something. A block, 2 rebounds, 2 made shots, an offensive rebound, a missed shot, and an assist. So that's a pretty productive 5.5. So he stayed on the court because he was making shots. So that's something to note. Marcus Cousins comes back in for then only, 2.5 minutes. He misses a shot and he gets a rebound. Why is that the case? Very interesting that Cousins only comes back for 2.5 minutes here after sitting out for 5.5. There's got to be something there. And then he doesn't play the final. Did DeMarcus Cousins get hurt? Am I really just foolish right now? I'm trying to look this up right now. We're doing this live, gang. Because the man only played 2 out of the last, 16 minutes of this game. Was something wrong with him, or was it just the fact that this game was blowing out and they just didn't want him out there? Yep, I think that it was just started to blow out the game and that they just did not want him out there based on realizing that game was probably over. So I'm not going to read too much into DeMarcus Cousins' minutes. Should have had 22 if the game didn't blow out. He doesn't play. If you look at this right here, DeMarcus Cousins doesn't play the final. There's 6.5 minutes right there. He doesn't play the final. If we take out this, 6.5 gives you 4. He doesn't play the final 16 out of 18 minutes in this game. That's crazy. That's crazy to me. And that he doesn't play the final 10. So I imagine this just has to be a complete blowout at this point right here. Yeah, it was. You can see right here the Raptors went on an 11-2 run. They sustained that run. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So it's just a complete blowout at that point. In this time right now, it was a 13-point game, and I guess they just didn't want DeMarcus Cousins out there. So that's what I'm just going to chalk it up to, was he didn't play because of the blowout. If somebody watched these games and they believe it was because of defensive reasons, please do let me know, because that's going to be important. We saw 20-plus minutes out of Andrew Bogut. We saw 9, which really should have been 7 if not for the end of the game run. But the fact that Jordan Bell gets more run than DeMarcus Cousins in the fourth quarter is very concerning to me. So that's something to note for sure. Cousins at 6,800. He's a smash play if he's going to get 30 minutes, but if they're going to somehow, for some reason, play him 20, then that's not great. Marc Gasol at 64. Marc Gasol had a decent game last night, 31 fantasy points, 64. His price comes down to 100. He's definitely in play. Fred VanVleet's price comes down $200 after a fine night, and now he's $6,000, which I think is nicer. I like him getting cheap. Same thing with him being at $6,000 flat. I think a ton of more people are going to flock to Marc Gasol and Iguodala early on. I don't think you're going to get any ownership on Fred VanVleet. Iggy's been as steady as they come. We projected him to maybe see a little bit of increased minutes. He did, but barely at 31 with Clay being out. He's been as steady as they come. He's averaging, 28 fantasy points per game in these first 3. 5,800 is still too cheap. Honestly, Andre Iguodala, if you're going to get a guy who's getting you solid 30 minutes and solid 25 fantasy points a night with a ceiling closer to 35, and it seems like his floor is right around that 25 point right now, maybe closer to 20, but he should probably be priced around this $6,400 range where Marc Gasol is. Danny Green at 4,800, so we get the Danny Green's price just flying everywhere. It started out at 32, it goes to 5,000, it goes to 36, now it's back to 48. This is a spot where I wouldn't go to Danny Green, but I have to see how the lineups build out, right? Danny Green had his ceiling game last night. He scored 18 points. He shot exceptionally well, 6 of 10 from 3. His only shots were 3-pointers. He has to do that well. If you think Danny Green is going to shoot 60% from 3 again, then 4,800 is a good price. I, as of right now, probably don't. $4,400 for Serge Ibaka, who saw increased minutes, and I don't think these minutes were a factor of anything out there, right? Was it foul trouble? We can check right now for Marc Gasol. In the game, Marc Gasol had a total of 4 personal fouls. Did those all come early? Because then that would reduce me to believe this was foul trouble. Only 1 in the first quarter. Then he picks up 2. Okay, so here we go. So Serge Ibaka is going to get an extra 3 minutes of run in this game due to Marc Gasol first quarter foul trouble. We'll see what happens a little bit After that, Marc Gasol then goes in for his 8.5 minutes. That's all normal, and he picks up his last foul late in the game. So that's good to know. Serge Ibaka, again, this is just first look. I want to give you knee-jerk reactions. Serge Ibaka picked up an extra 3 minutes, 3.3 minutes in this game, so almost 3.5 minutes. So he plays 22 minutes. He realistically was going to play 18.5 to 19, if not for that early foul trouble on Marc Gasol. So that makes me like Marc Gasol even more, because he had a good game, over 30 fantasy points, and that was without an extra 3 minutes to run in the first half. So Serge Ibaka is in play, but don't expect 22 minutes. I'd expect closer to 18, 19 minutes. Andrew Bogut, he played great, and he goes from 2,200. I liked Andrew Bogut as sort of a sneaky play that you might need. He gets 22 fantasy points. I don't think he was needed based on the way that the lineups were built. But 22 minutes of play, he averaged a fantasy point per minute. He did that the game before when he got 7 minutes. He got 7 fantasy points. He's averaging a fantasy point per minute. He picked up a steal, a block, so that really got him there with 7 rebounds and even 3 assists. I'm very concerned. I don't know. I have to look dig deeper into this, and that's what I'm going to do for the video later today and tomorrow, is figure out why DeMarcus Cousins was coming off the court. Did they not want to push him with his injury, realizing that they were down 13 with 8 minutes left and he just wasn't there? Was it because they liked the way that Andrew Bogut was playing? He shot 3 out of 4. He got you rebounds. He got you assists. I have to look into that, but Andrew Bogut at $4,000 regardless seems to now have taken over the backup role at the very least. So if you tell me that DeMarcus Cousins plays 30 minutes, and Andrew Bogut is in there for 15, and then you can give 3 to Jordan Bell or whatever it is, yeah, those 15 minutes can get you there at or you can get there at $4,000 if he gets you 20 fantasy points and has an above average game. But right now I'm going to lean to go away from Andrew Bogut, and this is a knee-jerk reaction because he has had 2 games where he's averaging a fantasy point per minute against this really good defense, and that was his ceiling type game unless DeMarcus Cousins is injured. 22 minutes is a ceiling game, and averaging a fantasy point per minute is a ceiling game. Don't expect 22 again. He's now priced at a point where he should be getting out there and getting you 20 points every single night. That's not the case. That was a ceiling, so I'm probably going to stay away from Bogut, who probably picks up increased ownership. Looney is most likely out. Quinn Cook is $3,000. A lot of people flocked to Quinn Cook yesterday when the news came that he was going to be out, when the news came that Klay Thompson was going to be out. And I said, like on the live stream, Quinn Cook is a guy who's probably going to see close to 30 minutes. I had him at 30 minutes if Klay was out. He got 27. But he's a guy who is very bad on offense, and all the usage in this game is going to be taken up by DeMarcus Cousins and Steph Curry. I was a little bit wrong there because Cousins wasn't on the court enough, but he's not a guy who scores a lot, right? And he's not a guy who scores a lot in fantasy aspects. Like Steph Curry is going to get the assists in this game, and so is Andre Iguodala. So this guy in Quinn Cook is really so much as a space filler, and yes, the minutes should have gotten in there. 14 seems low. That's a 0.5 fantasy point per minute performance. He should have been closer to like 18 minutes, around a 0.65, 0.7, but he wasn't. And Quinn Cook at $3,000, if Klay's out again, I'd be fine to go back there, but I'd much prefer other guys like we saw in the last game. Iguodala see a little bit of a bump, potentially even go to Sean Livingston, who we didn't see a bump in this last game for Klay being out, which is very surprising. The biggest bump did come for about 18 minutes or so from Quinn Cook. Sean Livingston at 26 will just be a guy who continues to grade out his 10 fantasy points for me, and a guy that I don't get to, even though he's going to get viable minutes. He's only scored over 15 fantasy points once in these playoffs. Alfonzo McKinnie, did he see the bump too? Okay, good. So this is where I went. McKinney, I said, would see around 15 minutes if Klay was out. He ended up getting to 18. He's similar to Quinn Cook in not being a good fantasy point per minute producer, but he's even worse, I would say. And then there's really nobody else. You have Norman Powell, who saw some more run. He saw 6 minutes in the first half, and then that was it. You have Jordan Bell, who saw 9 minutes in this game, but realistically it was only 7 if it wasn't for the blowout at the end of the game. And I have to even see why the heck the Warriors gave Jordan Bell, who has been just really a waste of space, honestly, to say the least, in this series. He's played now 21 minutes in the series, didn't play in Game 2, played 12 and started Game 1, and he looked very, very out of it, I would say, at least on the defensive side. On offense, he didn't really contribute much. You get that here. He only makes 1 shot, only shoots once, not contributing much during that time. It's interesting to see that they continue to run him out there. OG came back and did not play once again, so OG's not getting minutes. So that's it. Those are the guys. I have to break down the minutes right now. I feel a little bit better after doing this video. I think that the price points on them are interesting. I think that Marc Gasol is too cheap. I think that you get interesting price points at the flat 8K and 6K ranges with Lowry and Fred VanVleet, the point guards on the same team. Andre Iguodala should probably be priced around 6,600 realistically, or 6,500. The fact that he's priced at 58, I understand that his ceiling's not high and his average has only been around 28 fantasy points, but there's not a lot of guys that you could rely on at least below the 8K range right now that can get you 25 plus fantasy points each night. I'm probably leaning to fade Bogut or Andrew Bogut. I'm probably leaning to fade Danny Green now that their prices are back up. And what does this do? This puts us in a similar situation as we saw for Game 2, where there's absolutely no value at all. There's nothing. We get no value down here because we don't have Danny Green, who's going to play over 25 minutes for $3,600 or $3,200. The $3,600 Kevon Looney is not even in play. The value that you're dealing with, and let's call value $4,000 and below, right? Because that's what value is. Andrew Bogut, who just had a ceiling type game, and now he's priced as if this guy is going to go out there and play 20 minutes and score score 20 fantasy points a night, and even that might not get you there at $4,000. But I don't want any of that. Obviously, Kevon Looney is injured and out, and now you're automatically to the $3,000 range where there's no options. There's nothing down here. There's Quinn Cook at $3,000, and if Klay Thompson plays, you can wipe Quinn Cook off the face of the earth. He's not in play, at least in my opinion. And then you get Sean Livingston to be the only viable value piece at $2,600. Norman Powell only saw 6 minutes. I had him projected for 5. He's not going to do anything. Alfonzo McKinnie's 18 minutes were only because of Klay Thompson being out. Otherwise, I'd likely project him around, Klay Thompson being out. Otherwise, I likely project him around 8 minutes. There's nothing down here at all. I'm not taking a dart with 5 minutes out of Powell or Jordan Bell, or 5 to 10 minutes out of them and McKinney or Quinn Cook if Klay Thompson comes back. Now, I think Klay Thompson will be injured, so you probably see maybe somewhere around 15 minutes for Quinn Cook. Maybe you see around 12 minutes for Alfonzo McKinnie, and what I'm doing there is I'm kind of taking like 9 minutes off of Klay's normal total, maybe get Klay around 30 minutes. Even then, these guys are not going to get there for me. So the first guy on the value side that really makes any sense to me, yes, Andrew Bogut would make sense if you tell me he's going to get 15 minutes again, but even if he averages a fantasy point per minute at $4,000, 15 fantasy points is likely not enough. So what this says is that I can't play Steph, I can't play Kawhi in the captain spot unless Klay Thompson is out again, because then that at least opens up McKinney, it opens up Sean Livingston a little bit more, and it definitely opens up Quinn Cook being the main guy at $3,000. So I can't play these guys who are too expensive. So I'd likely find myself, so I don't have to dig for dirt value, landing in the range of Kyle Lowry, DeMarcus Cousins, and Marc Gasol. That's just what I'm looking at on first look in terms of my captains. That allows you to fill in Iguodala, maybe Fred VanVleet, another one of these guys that you don't choose as captain, and then get up here and pick 1 or 2 of these guys. There's just no value, and it looks disgusting now that I'm looking at this first look. So that's it. I'm going to make the breakdown video. I'm going to do the spreadsheets right now, also make an MLB video right now. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Leave a like on the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you have not already. My name's Sal. You already know that.